Walter Steck values good food. He loves cooking for himself and for others. But when he was a child, he was never sure if there would be enough food.
I wouldn't get breakfast if I had wet the bed. I wet my bed for a long, long time. So I was hungry for a long time.
The Swiss authorities deemed Steck's parents social outcasts. They took him and placed him in a foster family. There he had no other choice than to work on the fields to earn his living. At the tender age of 5, he had become one of thousands of so-called contract children. The house that stood where Walter grew up has been torn down, but it never felt like home to him anyway.
We weren't allowed to sit at the table where everybody else was eating. We always had to eat standing by the sink. Always.
The authorities took children from poor families in particular. Since 1800, they were traded on markets like little slaves. Back then, Switzerland was a poor agricultural country, and the children were welcome laborers. They were given to those farmers demanding the lowest child support from the authorities, and were then put to work all day long until the age of 16.
Work was considered an educational tool, but many foster families were farmers and were also glad to have these children as laborers. In many cases, they exploited them.
For many years, these contract children remained silent. Their stories were considered at odds with the image of Switzerland as a successful and orderly country. Now, a former children's home has been turned into a place of remembrance, not by the state, but by a Swiss businessman who suffered here himself.
Grüezi miteinander. Hallo, mein Name ist Fluri Guido.
Guido Fleury has initiated a political campaign seeking justice for the former contract children. He's already won a small victory. Switzerland's upper chamber has decided that they will receive a compensation of 20,000 euros. This wouldn't have been possible without Fleury's powerful campaign or his wealth.
The former contract children were weak. They didn't have a lobby, so they couldn't make themselves heard. Sure, the media did report about them, but you always need money to make your cause widely known. That's for sure.
There were some 100,000 contract children throughout Switzerland. Many were placed in foster homes and then moved to strict children's homes. They never learned what it meant to fight for their rights, and their parents weren't around to support them, or they didn't care.
You could walk up a small lane and see the train station from there. We would head up there to see if our parents were coming, but my parents never showed up. It was brutal.
Das war brutal.
After decades of silence, this tragedy is only gradually being worked through. Walter Steck now speaks openly about his ordeals. His accounts have become part of an archive documenting the experiences of contract children like him.
There are always those people who don't want to confront the past. It's a dark and painful chapter in Swiss history. But I'm convinced one should properly know one's history in order to know where you stand and to be able to move forward.
Meanwhile, Walter Steck has come to enjoy life. He isn't seeking revenge, but he can't forgive either. He can't forget his childhood, which was defined by hate and violence.
Many knew what was going on, but nobody cared to look. Many didn't believe us either. I speak of us because there were many others like me. No one ever believed us.
Now, at 70, he'll receive 20,000 euros in what he says is a recognition of his suffering. He doesn't like the word compensation because nothing, he says, could ever make the pain he experienced undone.